Thank God it's Monday. I'm Krista from the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast. Welcome back for your Monday morning quickie. Well, hey there, savage badgers. I would like you to grab your coffee. I'm going to grab my glasses here so I can cut down on the glare so my eyeballs don't go crossed and stuff gets weird. And I'd also like you to find and grab that courage because, if you're listening to this while sitting in your car mentally negotiating with your steering wheel about whether to drive to work or, straight into a new life, I see you. I get what that feeling's like. And I want to welcome you to another episode of Uncomfortable Truths served with a side of, you know what? Just freaking tough love. And, maybe I will give you a hug or a pat on the shoulder because today I'm going to be diving into one of the proverbs that sounds simple until it grabs you by the shoulders and it begins to shake you. Smooth seas do not make skilled sailors. It's an African wisdom that cuts through our comfort addiction that we are plagued by currently, like truth through excuses. And the translation in Badger talk is comfort is really adorably cute, but it will not make you dangerous in the best way. And yes, I'm, going to call you out while maybe I will hold a towel for you and a healthy snack because this is going to be a friend to friend operation, if you will, where we are building empires and not excuses, right? We need to be part of a revolution, not excuses and comfort. And here's the thing nobody wants to admit while you're scrolling LinkedIn or social media or whatever it is. Most people aren't really scared of hard work. They're scared of the emotional shit, the emotional quote unquote weather that comes with it, the uncertainty that feels like standing naked in the middle of our not in the middle because that would be the eye, but like right outside the eye of the hurricane where the winds are the highest, right? It's the awkward beginner phase where you realize you're not instantly brilliant at the thing that you swore would save you. Like the what if I fail and everyone screenshots it bullshit spiral. Smooth seas feel like control, like you've figured out the cheat code to life. Storms feel like exposure, and they show you where your systems are held together with wishful thinking and expired duct tape, where your habits leak like a rusty boat and where your confidence is just a rental you can't actually afford. Storms reveal that your discipline has conditions and your mindset has loopholes. And that's why storms feel so damn personal. They're not just loud outside, they're exposing every lie that you've been telling yourself inside. That's exactly why storms are elite training grounds. Not because suffering makes you noble. It doesn't. Ask anyone who's suffered, okay? But because pressure reveals mechanics like nothing else can. Calm water will hide bad form or bad choices or whatever it is in your life until the day it matters most. And you can't coast on vibes. You cannot cruise on raw talent and tell yourself, oh, I'm fine while your foundation cracks beneath the surface. But a storm makes everything honest. It's nature's way of saying, show me what you're really made of, not what your Instagram bio claims or the highlight reels that you perpetually show, right? In rough seas, you find out if you actually know how to steer or if you've just been floating. Are you a burden or are you an asset? And if you can read a situation or just react to it, if you can regulate your panic or let it drive everything, if you can keep moving when conditions stop being adorably cute and start being freaking real. Because here's the truth bomb: skill isn't created by thinking about becoming skilled or just reading about it or reading about it in, saved post or your saved post or whatever. Skill is created when reality literally comes up and slaps you across your freaking face and it's demanding a response now in real time. And you practice responding well instead of just surviving. And I want to talk physiology for a second because your body is always part of this conversation, whether you've invited it into it or not, right? Stress is not the villain in your story. Chronic, unrelenting, unprocessed stress that camps out in your shoulders like it's paying rent or, in your head or your jaws, whatever it is, that's the villain. But acute stress, dosed, managed, recovered from, is literally how every adaptation in our bodies work. It's how you get stronger, smarter, resilient. Training is stress, learning is stress, growth is stress. Hell, being born, when we were born, that was stress. And look how that turned out, right? Your nervous system is literally designed to handle challenges and this is key to understand. It also gets recovery. When you lift weights, you create micro damage that sounds terrible until you realize that your body's rebuilding stronger because of it. When you do hard mental and emotional things, you create what I call micro discomfort, right? Micro fissures that you are hardening, strengthening that mind muscle. And your mind rebuilds with more capacity, even at the chemical level. Cortisol and adrenaline are supposed to spike and then return to baseline. They're not evil as they've been made out to be. The problem isn't, it's they're not supposed to stay elevated. That's the problem, like a smoke alarm that just won't shut up. And the problem isn't the storm, it's that we've forgotten how to let the storm pass through us instead of setting up a permanent resident. So when I say smooth seas don't make skilled sailors, I'm not romanticizing your pain or suggesting that you seek out suffering like it's a Black Friday sale, okay? Now, albeit I do like a really crazy, challenging workout that just puts me on the floor. But I'm saying you can treat challenges like training rather than proof that the universe has a personal vendetta against you. That shift alone from victim mentality to researcher to learning from feedback can revolutionize your entire existence, because the moment you start seeing hardship as a personal insult and start seeing it as a practice arena, you take back your power from wherever you've been storing it, probably next to the unused gym membership. I'm just going to say that because it's that time of year. And you stop asking, why is this happening to me? Which makes you small, makes you bitter, which keeps you in the perpetual victim mentality, which then you eventually start creating an entire identity, story, and personal reality around it. And start asking, what is this building in me? And it makes you more dangerous, again, in the best possible way. One question will shrink you and keep you in victim mentality, and the other is going to expand you into someone who just doesn't survive the storms but sees them coming and then thinks, good, I've been practicing this, I've been meaning to practice. Now I want to get real for just a hot minute or several. Not every storm is something you ordered from a challenge menu, okay? I get that. And I'm not saying that we all like, okay, well, I'm gonna pick this one today or whatever it is, right? Some storms are grief that arrives uninvited and overstays. Some storms are illness that writes your plans in permanent ink. Some storms are betrayal that make you question judgment, there's financial strain that could keep you up at 3 a.m. doing anxiety math, caregiving that stretches you paper thin, you know, relationships that end that, you know, or it could be, you know, going through midlife that's turning, you know, like your internal thermostat is having your these meat sweats that feel like a practical joke. And some storms are absolutely not happening for a reason. Sometimes shit is just happening. Okay. And I'm not going to hand this, you know, confetti cannon, sparkly covered platitude and tell you to be grateful for the pain. Okay. That's not my vibe. And, you know, I'm not suggesting it be yours. Sometimes shit just fucking sucks. Full stop. Okay. What I tell you is this: you don't get to choose whether life brings weather. The weather's coming, whether you've got an umbrella, a raincoat, whatever it is, a lightning rod. But you do get to choose whether you become a sailor who panics at every cloud or the sailor who reads the wind and adjusts accordingly. You get to choose whether you're practicing or you're just enduring it and surviving it and taking it. And a lot of people, and maybe you're one of them, wait for calm seas to begin anything that matters. And they think, well, you know, once life settles down, then I'm going to start thinking about, you know, I'll take care of myself at that point, or I'll launch the business, or I'll have the hard conversation, or, when life settles down, I'll get consistent, or I'll stop treating my dreams like suggestions. Okay. I need you to hear this. All right, Badgers. Life does not settle down. If we can guarantee one thing that is certain in life, is that life is uncertain. Life just changes costumes, and the storm that you're in today will eventually rotate into a different category of chaos. And if you keep waiting for the perfect calm, you're basically putting your dreams, anything, whatever it is, not even your dreams, life on the daily, on layaway at a store that's about to go bankrupt, okay? And the universe doesn't honor rain checks. The universe doesn't even know what a fucking rain check is. You build stability inside yourself, not around yourself. You become the eye of the storm, not its victim, right? And this is where reframe challenges as changing or challenges as training, because more than even like a motivational word salad, because there's a lot of that shit out there too. It becomes an actual practice that changes your biochemistry. So when something hits hard, your amygdala, you know, it's dramatic. Wants to label everything as a 5 alarm, big ass dumpster fire in the middle of a whole bunch of other dumpster fires, right? That's its job. It's a smoke detector with anxiety disorder. And it would rather, flip out at burnt toast than miss an actual fire. But you can teach your system a different interpretation style. And in psychology, we call this stress reappraisal. And the research is mind blowing, because when people interpret stress signals as performance enhancement rather than threats, they handle challenges better. They perform better. They recover faster. And not because the stress disappeared, but because it became fuel instead of poison. And your racing heart becomes readiness, not doom. Your heightened alertness, that becomes focus as opposed to just fear. And your sweaty palms become grip, not slip, right? That's sailor energy. That's the sailor energy that I'm talking about. And that's okay, seas are rough, hands on deck. We train here, instead of, why does the universe hate me specifically? Why? Why do you hate me? And I want you to try something in real time. So when you hit your next challenge, and believe me, you will, because, Mondays have no chill, Tuesdays have no chill, 7 days a week, there's not a whole lot of chill. I want you to say it out loud, even if this feels ridiculous, especially if this feels ridiculous, okay? This is training. Not this is terrible, not this is unfair, not this means I'm behind everyone else who seems to have all their shit together. This is training. That's what you say. It's like, okay, this is training, right? Then get specific, because vague intentions just die. What are you training for? Maybe it's training for patience when every fiber of your being wants to rage quit. Maybe it's training for consistency when motivation has left the building and taken all of your enthusiasm right along with it. You're training for boundaries when people pleasing feels easier than disappointing someone, or training for communication when you'd rather ghost than grow. You know, training for staying regulated while your emotions are doing unauthorized backflips in your chest. It's if you label, if you can name the skill, you can build the skill. If you just label everything bad, good, it's hard, it's unfair, it's bullshit, you know, you stay reactive and you miss the entire masterclass of life that is trying, you know, the masterclass life is trying to teach you. So this next strategy, this is a hot badger tip that is build your resilience resume, or a resume of resilience. And this is, and I'm going to get a drink. This lists storms that you've already survived, because your brain has a toxic habit of forgetting your victories while replaying your failures on an incessant playback loop, okay? This, you know, this feedback loop just keeps happening of the negativity and the bad things over and over and over and over again. And this isn't, you know, motivational BS. It's a neurological hack. Your brain's negativity bias is going to remember every threat, every failure, every moment that you felt small, every time you fucked up, and how you said this to that person, or oh my God, I said that, I did that, you know, because evolutionarily, remembering threats is what keeps humans from becoming saber-toothed tiger snacks. Now, the problem is modern threats are usually emails, awkward conversations, but our brain is still treating it like a prehistoric predator. So we get to actively and aggressively feed our brain evidence of our resilience. Evidence calms the nervous system. Evidence is building the confidence, and it makes you stop acting like today's problem is the first hard thing that you've ever felt, when, you know, you've actually been collecting storm badges like a meteorological Girl Scout, if you will. So do it now. Now, not later when you have time, not later when it's going to fit into your schedule better. Mentally, or preferably like me, on paper or in your phone if you use it, while pretending to take notes at a meeting if you have to. I don't care where. Just list the storms, the breakup that made you question if you'd ever trust again. Maybe it's a job loss that felt like an identity theft. Like your identity was so tied to that job. It's like, well, who am I now? Maybe it's a health scare or a family drama or a financial crisis, right? The season that you had to rebuild your entire life. And, you know, I want you to write that down and then add one line under each storm. What did I learn? And what did I do that helped? And what can I do better next time? You are building a personal operations manual for your own resilience. And this is, you know, this is kind of like that playful punch on the shoulder with a side of reality, right? If you refuse to acknowledge what you've already overcome, you will keep underestimating yourself and overestimating the obstacles. And that's not humble. That's literally straight up self sabotage with better branding and a victim mentality complex nobody can fucking afford, because we are literally saturated in a victim mentality world right now. And we're done, okay? It's old news and we're done. And there's also something called post traumatic growth. And I want to handle this one delicately. Trauma is real, okay? It's pain is valid, and we are not hosting a suffering Olympics where whoever hurts most wins a trophy, because trauma comes in all forms, right? But research consistently shows that a significant portion of people report positive psychological changes after adversity. It's deeper relationships, you know, could be forged, or there's laser clear priorities that help them cut through the BS. It's a stronger sense of self, you know, and an appreciation for life that only comes from almost losing it. Not because the trauma was good or meant to be, or any, you know, anything any of that spiritual bypassing, okay? But because humans have almost supernatural capacity to create meaning and strength out of pain, we're alchemists. We're, turning lead into gold, taking breakdowns, and you can turn them into breakthroughs, right? And if you've ever looked back, and if you haven't, look back at a brutal season, and think about this, it broke me open in so many ways, but after getting through it, it made me so much better. I am stronger. And you know exactly what I mean. You didn't want the storm. Nobody orders pain from a catalog, but you did become someone who can navigate through the adversity. And I want to get uncomfortable with strategy number 3, hot badger tip number 3. Practice rough conditioning training on purpose. And this is where the Instagram quotes meet reality and most people tap out. Everyone loves the idea of becoming stronger through adversity. I just said it. Until you suggest they actively seek manageable challenges. But this is exactly how you become unshakable instead of just hoping you're going to magically handle the next crisis better. You need to actually practice it on purpose. Practice on purpose. You expose yourself to controlled discomfort. You recover. You repeat. Doses of hormetic stress, the stress inoculation. That's progressive overload for your nervous system. And it's teaching yourself at a cellular level. I can handle hard things without falling apart, checking out, or burning my whole freaking life down. And I'll use fitness as an example. And this looks like training while you feel medium. You're not sick, you're not injured, you're not exhausted, but you're definitely not feeling okay. You practice doing the workout when your motivation is MIA, which is most of the time. You practice hitting your protein when your schedule is chaos, or you practice good form when you're tired because that's when injuries happen and excuses tend to multiply at that point. And in life, this looks like having the uncomfortable conversation instead of letting resentment ferment. It looks like making the budget instead of treating your bank account like a horror movie you're too scared to watch and check. You're looking at it and you have your eyes like this. It looks like asking for help instead of performing the, oh, I'm fine show until you collapse. And then everybody's like, wait, what the fuck just happened? It looks like following through even when nobody's watching. And I'm going to say this one again. It looks like following through even when nobody's watching. Nobody's clapping and nobody's going to notice but you. That is the most important to me, I feel, in my opinion. And I need you to hear this clearly because some of you are about to misinterpret this as be in chaos. Always surround yourself in chaos. Training under stress does not mean living in constant storm mode. That's not resilience. That's a recipe for burnout. And you're going to get a nice, healthy side of breakdown. It means stop making your progress dependent on perfect circumstances. You need to stop, you don't stop needing stars to align or, your hormones to cooperate or, have Mercury be in opposite retrograde while Powerade's just dipping down the horizon and Gatorade's just teaming up on the other side. Like you practice sailing in whatever weather that you've got. You adjust the plan without abandoning the mission. That's maturity. That's discipline. That's self-trust. And it's rarer than a calm sea in a hurricane, right? And one of the sneakiest traps that I see, and speaking from personal experience, and is it's okay. I could be stepping on some perfectly pedicured toes here, if you will, but is when people use self-care as a shield against growth. Okay, real self-care sometimes it is the bubble bath or it's the getting your nails done. And boundaries, yes, but real self-care looks like doing the hard thing you've been avoiding because procrastination is slowly poisoning your potential. And if your peace requires you to avoid every difficult conversation, challenging workout, or growth opportunity, then it's not peace. It's a full-blown hostage situation where your comfort zone is calling the shots, and your comfort zone is not your friend. It's a liar. It's telling you to stay small and it's the same as staying safe. And I'm saying this because growth lives outside of your comfort zone and you can't Amazon Prime that shit straight to your doorstep. It doesn't work like that. And finally, this is a plot twist that for me changed things and could change everything for you. Mentor someone else through their storm. This flips the entire script from me versus the cruel world to we're all in this ocean together, right? And when you can mentor someone, you don't need to have your shit completely together. Your mess becomes the message. You don't need to be the perfect, you know, you don't need it to be perfect or have all the answers or even have fully healed from your own storms. You just need to be a few steps ahead with a willingness to tell the truth about those, what those steps cost you. Helping someone else navigate their waves, it gives your own storm that you have gone through and are still navigating, meaning without forcing toxic positivity. And it reminds you, that what you've lived through is curriculum, not just casualties. It's going to strengthen your own skills because teaching is the highest form of practice. You become more articulate about what actually works versus what just sounds good theoretically, okay? And you develop compassion that starts to have calluses because you become less obsessed in the best way. And it makes it harder to spiral about your own problems when you're actively helping someone else solve theirs. And mentorship, it can be a formal program or it can just be tiny acts of somebody that maybe it's a message to a friend who's currently drowning, and I'm not just talking heart emojis. Maybe it's a comment that actually helps instead of just saying, oh, you got this, right? Maybe it's a workout buddy that you don't let quit at rep 8 when they have 12 in them, or a newer entrepreneur you remind that messy action beats perfect planning. It could be a friend that you tell, your standards aren't too high, you're just shopping in the wrong store. The storm doesn't have to isolate you. It can connect you to a whole fleet of other sailors who get it. And, I'm not here to hand you philosophy or, leave you floating in the sea because, it sounds so nice when I do the podcast, but what do I actually do? And the next time the storm hits, and it's going to, is try this simple sequence. Name it, normalize it, navigate it. Because when you name it, what is actually happening is you stripped away drama and story. It's literally a fact. Okay, what is it? You normalize it. Storms are part of being alive, not proof of your failing or that you're cursed or you're uniquely disaster prone, right? And then navigate it. What is the next right action? Not the perfect action, the next right action. Because it's not steering by wishing that the weather was different, okay? It's steering by reading what it is, choosing a direction, and then adjusting as you go. And you can do that too. You've been on, say you're on a journey and you're going a specific way, and then you need to pivot and adjust, right? You just haven't been giving yourself credit for what you've already been doing. And, if you're in a calm season right now, well, good. Thinking maybe my seas are smooth. Well, that's great. Enjoy it. Okay. Also, don't waste it. That's not the goal. It's a preparation window. It's the universe saying, okay, I'm giving you some breathing room. Better use this to get strong. Use the calm to build habits that will hold life together when life gets loud. Build strength, physical, mental, emotional, financial, relational, all the things. Whatever it is, build savings, sleep hygiene, friendships that can weather the truth, through the weather, with, the truth behind it, and build skills that don't depend on feeling motivated or inspired. You want to build your emotional range so you can feel things without becoming them, right? Build your ability to be uncomfortable without turning it into a 3-act drama that has 20 acts in each of the three acts, right? Calm is not a permanent state any more than a storm is. It's a gift. Use it to train, not to get soft. All right, Badgers, you know I love giving you a challenge. So here's your Monday morning quickie challenge for today. Take it into the week and every week thereafter. I want you to do it today, first of all, today. Not when you feel ready, but pick one area of your life where you've been waiting for calm seas to take action, okay? And just one. All right. Again, and I say this all the time, not 10, not five, one. Okay. Then do one small storm rep today, one uncomfortable phone call, one workout that you'd rather sit down and eat chips while watching Netflix, one budget check, even though the numbers might sting, right? Maybe that's just going in and looking at your bank account, right? Log in, check it out. One honest conversation instead of another week of pretending. Perhaps it's a boundary, even if your voice shakes, or one page written badly instead of perfectly procrastinated. It could be, and this is something too, is just taking a walk in shitty weather. Okay. It's been super fucking cold where I live. And when I mean cold, I'm talking like below zero wind chills and stuff like that, right? I've been going out every day. Has it been comfortable? No. Till I get home, my fingers and toes have hurt. And then when they thaw out, they hurt even more. But I'm practicing and I'm building, right? Maybe it's one meal prepped instead of ordering takeout because it's easier. One action that says, I sail in this weather. Keep it simple, keep it honest, and keep it done. And when you inevitably hit resistance, right? Because you will, your brain is going to throw a fit like a toddler who didn't have a nap time at all the entire day. Just remember, resistance is not a stop sign. Resistance is the price of admission to becoming the version of you who can handle whatever waves are going to come next, right? The version who doesn't need perfect conditions to be powerful. So go build like a sailor, not like, not a smooth sea addict waiting for those oh so elusive, perfect conditions to be powerful, right? Because we know they're never going to come. So the horizon is calling, and it's only going to reveal itself to those who are brave enough to leave the dock. Your future self is watching and betting on you to choose the waves. Okay, so anchors up, Badgers. It's time to sail. Don't just go through life, grow through life.